All right, my friends, here we go. This is the Vitamin Joy Tarot reading. I want to thank you for joining me. It's going to be a little bit of a reading, but those folks who hang out with me when I do this stuff, I really appreciate you because you have to fight against the attention span. I can already feel people going, oh, what's this guy going to talk about? What have you? And scrolling through, the platforms like YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. They give us these sound bites. They give us these like 30-second videos, and that's not what I'm here about. I'm going to take a little bit of a dive, and I want to give you a little bit of joy. I want to give you a little bit of wisdom and perspective from the work that I do here. Now, we all know that current events aren't great. Pull up to the gas pump, not great. Watch the news, not great. I have to remind people at every turn that the platforms that are delivering the news to us want us to be addicted to fear. These platforms want us to be addicted to fear. YouTube wants us to be addicted. I mean, they all are sensationalists, and legacy media is too. So, current events, it's like an ocean. You gotta, stay on top of it, sure, but you can't be consumed by it. You can't allow yourself to be consumed by it. You gotta stay focused. You gotta stay calm. The ocean does not reward panic. The ocean does not reward impatience. When you're on a boat, you gotta be cool, calm, collected, no matter what storm is above you, no matter how the water's acting underneath you. And that's how our current events are. Because what happens around us impacts us. So you gotta know that you are impacted by everything you're consuming. Now, I want to set some intention here to kind of give you a little bit of joy. Let's talk about tarot cards and the energy. And I'm going to use my deck here, the Vitamin Joy Tarot deck. I call it that because for those of you who might have some tarot knowledge or wisdom, tarot began as a game. Tarot began as a game. That's its roots. So I know that there's a level of joy that should always be, navigated back to. And that's what I want this to be. I want this to be a little bit of joy and a way to get your joy. Now, I call it vitamin joy because we have to actively seek joy. Look at the news. How much joy is it delivering versus how much panic and fear? Look at your social media feed. Is it giving you more joy, laughter, or is it just panic after panic after panic? This is where I have issues with people who are incessantly and obsessively posting political stuff. They call it doom scrolling for a reason. How many of us who are trying to stay up to date and post and post and post about political stuff are just contributing to the doom? Like there's so many people doing the work that these platforms want them to do. There are so many people out there who are spreading the fear and the worry and the hatred, all while thinking they're doing their civic duty of sharing news. It's an unpopular opinion. People don't like to hear that from me, but I see the impact of the messaging that people have. So let's get some joy. I also want to talk to you about a good way to get your vitamin joy in is through nostalgia. Now, I'm a kid of the 80s, kid of the 90s. I loved horror movies from the 80s, and I know that I'm a little bit too stressed out when I start to crave the old vampire movies that I watched as a kid. Like Fright Night, boy oh boy, I love that movie. If I start to crave it, I'm like, wow, I'm a little too overburdened. I better go get some of my joy. I better go get it as a vitamin. So let's take a look at these cards. We're going to do 3 cards. The card that shows us where we're at in life, the card that shows us what vexes and perplexes us, and the card that shows us what heals and reveals. So let's get to it. Where we're at in life, the King of Swords. All right. So, balanced, imbalanced. The King of Swords, the swords, the mind, communication, breath. The King, a sense of authority. Everybody that I've ever met pretty much understands that they think that they're the master of their mind. If I, what did Mark Twain say? Mark Twain said, it's easier to fool people than it is to convince people they've been fooled." I feel like I'm shoveling shit against the tide here when I say, hey, you have been manipulated. You've been manipulated. People don't like to hear that because people like to think they're the master of themselves. They think they're the master of their mind. You're not. We are being manipulated all the time. Do you not like your body? Is there something about your body that you don't like? That's because you've been programmed by commercialism, industry, advertisements to dislike your body. So you'll spend more money during your life to fit into a mold. I know. It's hard to hear that we're being manipulated. It's hard to hear that we're not the masters of our minds. And it sucks, I know. But I have been bamboozled. I have been manipulated. This is why I can call it out when I see it in others. I have been manipulated. I know what that's like. I have been abused by narcissists and manipulated by industry. I know what it's like. I can acknowledge it. And I can also say, hey, if it's happened before, it can happen again. The other part of that King of Swords is that I think a lot of us are suffering because we want justice, we want balance, we want fairness, and we're not seeing it happen. You know, everybody, that's bitching about the war in Iran and the president doing it without congressional approval. Well, I mean, did you go through 2003 when Bush ran into Iraq and Afghanistan? Like, this has been happening for a long time. And yeah, we have this sense of injustice and anger. I see it in everybody, people that are upset at the president but can't name their select board members or their own state reps. People who are still upset at Joe Biden, and they think they're doing the right thing, but they will never acknowledge that they've been manipulated by the media that they've consumed. This is what is causing a lot of problems in this world. All right. The card that vexes and perplexes us, the Five of Swords. So we have a theme here. The Five of Swords is inner conflict. It is conflict in general, conflict with others, conflict with ourselves, conflict with different parts of ourselves in our mind. We don't know how to heal that. We don't know how to do that. Well, I think it's important to acknowledge that whether you're watching news or any social media or what have you, that there is an agenda behind everything that you're seeing. Now, I would invite people to take a look at my own personal Facebook page where I am trying to share humor and art and love and beauty. Everybody else is sharing like political outrage and negativity. Well, that's what these systems feed off of. Unfortunately. So I love the analogy of the sword representing the mind in tarot, because if we're not using the sword with skill, we're going to hurt ourselves. We're going to hurt other people. Your mind is a tool. That's it. Your mind absorbs and then repeats back to you. If you don't understand that, you're going to be manipulated. If you don't understand that about your mind, you're going to be controlled. You will be. Nobody was ever born into this world wanting to fly a Confederate flag. Nobody was born into this world wanting to fly an American flag. People choose to do so because of the stories that they have been exposed to. Nobody was born into this world wanting to hate their body. Does anybody question why they do? No, they just kind of go, oh, I should hate my body because it's fat or what have you, instead of going, wait, where did this come from? Because when I was a little kid, I didn't feel like this until I got into school, until I started to get more conscious of the TV and advertisements that are around me. I didn't have a problem with my body until I got into kindergarten, first grade, and kids started calling me fat. Didn't have a problem with it before then. All right. So why would that happen? Because of what I was exposed to. Majority of your issues, conflict, anxiety, are happening because of what you've been exposed to, but nobody calls it into question, and that's actually critical thinking. Critical thinking is not taught in schools, because if people were taught critical thinking, they'd even call into the agenda of the systems like the American government. They're not interested. They, are not interested in us having critical thinking. And here's the thing. We all think we mastered critical thinking. But let me tell you, if you think you've mastered critical thinking, you definitely haven't mastered critical thinking. So, what heals and reveals? The Ten of Swords. Wow. Okay. So we have swords across the board. We have the King of Swords. Oh, we think we're so smart. Everybody thinks they're so smart. Okay. Well, We're not. We're getting manipulated, and now we have conflict with each other, with like this whole division in America of like the liberals versus the MAGA, the conservatives. That's orchestrated. That's been done with intention. That's been done with intention. They'd much rather have us hating ourselves. They'd much rather have people spouting off about libtards and liberals and MAGA folk. And meanwhile, billionaires are getting tax break after tax break after tax break. Oil companies are getting subsidy after subsidy after subsidy. Nobody's going after the real villains in this world because we're being taught we're each other's villains. It's goddamn sad. It's goddamn sad. You know, I know this lovely woman. I'm not going to mention her by name here, but she's lovely. She cares for her family. I saw her comment the other day bitching about illegal immigrants. I don't want my money going to illegal immigrants. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh my God. You don't care about how much money is going to oil companies, do you? You're not bitching about that. I wonder why. I wonder where this story of illegal immigrants came from, right? Because you're not calling into question what you've been exposed to. Lovely woman, heartfelt woman, lovely, lovely, lovely woman. But I'm watching her being bamboozled by the media. She's like, no, illegal immigrants stealing all our money. No. What was it that I just saw? The United States government is borrowing on average $50 billion a month. Like our debt, national debt is going through the roof. $50 billion. That's not going to illegal immigrants. It's going to where billionaires aren't paying their fair share. So Ten of Swords is this. Ten of Swords is understanding we've been all bamboozled. And it's this idea that these things need to die. There's a sense of death and finality with the Ten of Swords, where if you're not aware of what you're being exposed to and calling it into question, you're going to pick it up and you're going to start injuring yourself and others. So there's a sense of finality. At what point do we understand, hey, I've been programmed, hey, I've been hurt, hey, you've got an agenda here, you're manipulating. I'm definitely more leftist than I am a person on the right, but, you know, I'm a very proud, independent Vermonter. I really don't like participating in divisionary tactics. I don't like being on the left or the right. And there's a lot out there that we're being exposed to that is hurting us. I think of a podcast that's out there called the Midas Touch Network, MEIDAS. They just won a big podcast award for journalism, and I look at them and I'm like, you're not journalists, you're sensationalists. They're reporting the news, but they're doing so in a very sensationalist way. You know, you could play a drinking game with these guys when you get on there, and it's like, how long is it before you hear the word disastrous, you know, threat to democracy, you know, all of that. News should present the facts, not tell you how to feel about them. And we're being told how to feel. And humans, they think they're logical. We think we're logical. We think we're rational. No, we base our decisions on emotion, and then we try to back it up with logic. That's what you do. That's what I do. We base our decisions on emotion, then we try to back it up with logic. Because of how we're not taught how our brains work. And here's why this is important from a spiritual place. We're all gonna friggin' die. We're gonna die. And when you die, whether you believe this or not, you're gonna go through a life review. You're gonna take a look at your life. You're gonna take a look at everything that you were exposed to. And then you will know regret. So I'll paint this picture to you. How many people were taught to hate their body? How many women, especially, taught to hate their body, and they do so for 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years? Then they die and they look back on their life and they go, I was beautiful. But I didn't understand advertising. I didn't understand the human mind. So this is why I talk about being aware of what we're exposed to and understanding the influence and the fear and the outrage and the sensationalism that we're getting from every goddamn angle. And then if we can master that and we can figure that out, we can rise above it, and we can do our best to enjoy our life and not get consumed into these whirlpools and these oceans of misery, madness, anger, and fear. So try not to, as much as possible. And if the truth is, and this is the truth, that we're all impacted and influenced by that which we're surrounded by, you got to understand, you are too. So get some joy in. Go out and get some joy. Watch some Golden Girls. Listen to some good music. I was in a group reading the other day talking to a husband and wife who were just so clenched up and worried from national events. And I'm like, read the news instead of watch it. Don't listen to it in the background. It's going to affect you. And then how about you put some reggae on? Listen to some reggae, because that's going to do a whole lot more for your mood than constantly listening to the news. So stay aware, like the ocean. Stay on top of it, but don't be consumed by it, because you're no good to anybody if you are. And we don't need to be hating our neighbors. Our neighbors aren't the ones that we need to be paying attention to. So, all my love to you. Take care of yourself. Thank you for being here. And I hope you get something out of this.